Hey, so I've been wanting to make this video. I've been planning it out for about the past week and a half, because it's especially something that's been really salient for me the past couple weeks. Um, so yeah, to give some background on I guess the baggage that I come in with being non-binary or being even out as being queer in the workplace. Like growing up, I really didn't have any role models. Who looked like me or liked the people that I did and were out and happy and successful in their careers. I knew of some people, but it wasn't anyone I was really close with. And basically, my only example of a non binary person growing up was this, stuck with me all this time. But there's some skit, I think, on SNL where there's this person called Pat, and literally the whole thing was that no one could figure out if Pat was a boy or a girl, and I guess that was super funny. And obviously the whole comedy around it was not knowing what Pat's gender was, and that scares me because I think most people read me as either now anyway read me as male most of the time, but otherwise it's like a what are you sort of thing. And so there is this uncomfortable moment where someone doesn't know what your gender is, and so then they get awkward and they have to deal with it, and so then it becomes funny, or it is then put on me because they're uncomfortable, and then I'm the freak show in the room. And especially in my career, that's something that really scares me because I take my job very seriously when I'm at work, and I'm good at what I do. I worked for 6 years in a pharmacy. I'm very comfortable in that arena, and I really love it, and I want to be successful and I want to be respected like anybody else does. And so this is something that's been a point of baggage for me, especially because when I first moved to Seattle, I had two super contrasting experiences. I applied for a job because I needed to pay my bills, obviously, and I ended up getting hired the same week at two different places. So one at Target as a barista in Starbucks, and I'm sharing that because that's been a super positive experience, and I hopefully don't think they'll mind the shout out. My other experience was actually in a pharmacy. I'm not going to name which one, but it was extremely negative. So to kind of give the contrast between those two, when I was applying to Target, they, on the online application, had a line for preferred name, which I'd never seen before on an app. And in my head, I was just sort of this was a new thing for me. I just started using Sam the past few months. Especially if my pronouns were also very new about that time. But I was like, hey, you know what? It's going to be a minimum wage gig. It's probably not going to be permanent. It's not in my field that I'm hopefully going to be going into in pharmacy. So I kind of went for it, put it in there. And literally from the point that they called me and left a voicemail for my interview to present day, I haven't been called anything but Sam at that workplace. And that's done wonders for my confidence, even having a name tag that had my name on it and getting to use that all day and try that out. That was such a huge deal to me. They also are extremely respectful of my pronouns. As far as even once I ended up divulging that to them, my team leads have even done check-ins. After I came back from surgery, my team lead kind of asked me, was just kind of hey, I know it's a personal thing, and I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but just checking in, if there's a change about that. And I was like, oh no, there wasn't. It's still they them. And they even let me put it on my name tag because I had a couple instances where customers were asking me uncomfortable questions, and I just feel very supported there. And knowing even Target's policies and politics as a company, I think there are a lot of corporations that the pink dollar and whatever profit from that. But honestly, Target does its job, and I feel extremely supported as a queer individual and as a trans and non-binary individual working there. It's been a really positive experience for me. I really love it. That's why I'm still there. The other experience I had first moving to Seattle was not so great. It kind of stemmed from ordering these scrubs that we had to order to work there. And keep in mind too, this is also a job in my field, and it's I'm invested in getting along with my employer and especially my boss in the pharmacy. That's something that's very important to me because this could be a letter of recommendation, this could be a future internship, this could be a future job, my career. So I'm going in trying to be impressive and just trying to shove this gender stuff down because I don't want it to come up, I don't want it to affect opportunities for me. And it's also new and I'm still uncertain about it. But basically we had to order scrubs, and I had already been binding for about a year at that point, very every single day. The scrubs that were issued to us for free I went in to place an order for that, and they said that because my gender marker was female on my ID, I had to order feminized scrubs, women's scrubs. Basically, they were cut to like allow space for a chest, so it's not like super baggy, which was exactly the last thing that I wanted, being someone who binds, because then it's really baggy in the front. But I was basically talked into ordering them anyway because I didn't want to rock the boat. And it was also going to be upwards of $50 to order the unisex scrubs for the men's scrubs. So kept my head down, ordered them, tried them on. It was awful. I couldn't even come out of the restroom wearing them because they made me so uncomfortable, and like were really, like I don't want people to be like looking at my chest. Like it's already something that's extremely uncomfortable for me at that point. So ended up ordering the men's scrubs, but then of course there's a delay, so I get back to my boss in the pharmacy, and then that started this whole string of him basically making fun of me for wearing men's clothing, and like wanting to look like a man, which I basically would just not respond to and be really uncomfortable. And people who know me at work and like in general, I'm super bubbly, I'm positive, I like cracking stupid jokes, I'm kind of like the class clown at work, I guess. Like, not that I don't take my job extremely seriously, but I just like having that rapport with my coworkers that like we kind of like, you know, like we're all buds. And I feel like it just really shut my personality down to feel like, well, to know that my boss thought that I was weird or a freak, and because he made that really clear, and just others in the workplace as well. Like, it just sort of became this thing of like, oh, like, why am I being so quiet? Why am I being so weird? But I'm just extremely uncomfortable all the time. And then it kind of turned into like I was like the outcast, and I was just dreading going to work, dreading being at work, counting down until I could leave. And so I started taking less shifts and like working more at Target. And I ended up quitting, and that experience there affected me so much. I almost didn't finish my application for school. It was like that bad. It was like 3 months of extremely hostile workplace. And this is a company that's also like on the HRC's like national, like they rank super high for LGBTQ equality. And like I, for one, had this corporate policy, which is bullshit, that I ran into that allowed them to act like this, and basically outed me at work. And then two, had a boss that I could have been like someone who would affect my career, but I felt like I couldn't do anything to like stand up for myself or to even like tactfully get out of this work experience. So that was my experience in a pharmacy, that it was so bad I almost didn't go to school. So I've been really nervous about applying for other jobs in pharmacies, and I think that's part of why this interview that I had when I came back really kind of sent me spinning out. So I had an unfortunate situation where my gender identity as someone who's non-binary and uses they them pronouns was divulged to the person who was interviewing me and hiring me. And it wasn't necessarily the fault of the people involved. I think they thought that they were trying to make me more comfortable there. But it ended up like it's not something that I usually divulge to an employer, and I hadn't had that conversation with them yet. So I was really freaked out going into the interview about it. I just kind of planned to take things how I normally do, because it's not relevant to my ability to do my job, like what my gender is or what I look like. It's really not. I am very comfortable in a pharmacy. I worked in one for 6 years. It was my first job when I was 16. I'm incredibly passionate about it. I work really well and like usually have a great rapport with my patients, and I'm confident in that and like ability to do my job and do it damn well. So I usually try to focus on that in interviews, but it became really clear from the start that this was going to be something that was going to come up. She was kind of fishing around with my resume, asking specifically about the like queer parts of it, because I mean, I'm president of like the new queer club that we just started for all the pharmacy students, and like I have that on there because it's relevant leadership experience, and I have my stuff from my undergraduate career that happens to be queer because that was my involvement of like literally 40 hours plus a week. And so of course I'm going to talk about that because it's been a big part of my life and like my role as a leader, but I'm not putting it on there to like focus on the fact that I'm queer. It just happens to be that leadership experience is in that niche. Anyway, heated. But basically within the first couple minutes of the interview, it was clear this was going to come up. And so knowing that like she knew that I knew that she knew, I brought it up because she was fishing around and was like, hey, like I know this was like told to you beforehand. This makes me really uncomfortable because I haven't brought this up in an interview before and don't feel that it's necessarily the appropriate place, but like I apologize that you found out that way. And that kind of led her to start in on a tirade, is my best way of describing it. She said that she was intolerant of PC bullshit, like using they them pronouns. Told me that she had patients who were trans, but everybody has a gender that she's ever met. So therefore, like, maybe they can help me figure myself out there. Told me that this is the part that was probably the worst, but even if the people who told her hadn't told her, she would know just from my resume and the way that I look coming in that there was something going on with me. It's basically like everything, all of my worst fears rolled in from literally like being like a gay kid and like being terrified to come out because thinking that my life will be over if anyone finds out that I'm gay, like rolled into like my whole internalized stuff that like if you don't have a gender, you're a freak. Like, it was everything, all my worst fears all in one, with like someone who is prominent out there in my field, like saying this to me. The interview was so bad, I thought that she brought me in to literally prove a point that you cannot be out in my field as someone like me and be successful. And that was really hard. And also, like, looking back on it, it's just like I was so shocked that it was happening, and I was so taken off guard, like not expecting it to be like that at all, that there's so many things that I could have, going back, like in hindsight, like I should have said this, I should have defended myself, I should have stormed out of there, I should have like been mad, and like I didn't. I just sat there and I took it and like agreed with her and said it wasn't appropriate for the workplace in a pharmacy and it shouldn't have come up, and I apologized for it coming up, and I just like kept my head down and took it, and I was so mad at myself for that too. I think that's, like, went out to my car and cried because I was just so angry that not only like was this something like an opportunity that I really wanted, but it was like 2 for 2 of like shitty experiences in pharmacies that like if I wasn't the way that I am, it wouldn't have been like that. That's all that was going through my head, was like if I wasn't the way that I am, I would have this job. That's really hard. It also was kind of triggering a lot of things for me that were illogical, but, like, oh, I'm going to have this mountain of student loan debt when I get out, and I'm not going to be employable. I'm going to be this huge burden on my family and not be able to get a job. And I was, like, questioning whether I should, like, take a year off of school. And it's, like, when I'm, like, having this intense reaction, I feel like the people I was trying to confide in were, like, just from this one interview, like, that's what's happening. But it's, like, there's a lot more. This is, like, my whole life's worth of baggage that's, like, coming up in this little, like, 10-minute interaction. And I know the person who was who's interviewing me, like, I don't think she, like, intended to be awful, but it's, like, I certainly don't think she intended to be respectful of it, but, like, I know she didn't, like, bring me in to, like, specifically to make that point. It just certainly felt like it. So that was really hard. And it's taken me a couple weeks to, like, kind of, like, get back on my feet and, like, feel confident. I'm really fortunate that I have a therapist who's really great. Please go to therapy. It's great. Everyone should do it. Counseling's great. My therapist is non-binary, and so I've talked this over at length with them over the past couple weeks. And I also went and talked to one of my professors at the school who's very supportive and kind of made a game plan for how I'm going to address this in future interviews. And basically, I'm just going to go into it and, like, if I'm confident and the conversation is going the way that I want it to go, I'm just going to tell them, like, this is how I want to be referred to. Just so you know, so that you can, refer to me in a way that's like we have mutual respect for one another. And this is how I view my interactions with patients, because it's completely different. Like, my job is to be what they need me to be. It's not for me to, like, be personally fulfilled by every single interaction. You're not going to be ever in customer service roles. And, like, that's not my job. My job is to take care of the patient and make sure that they're using their medication safely and effectively. And, like, that's it. My job is not to correct someone if they happen to think that I'm a girl. It's a 5-minute interaction. Like, I've got a thick skin. I'm going to be all right. It's not going to affect me or be anything I would ever bring up to a patient. And, like, that's my personal philosophy. That's how I live my life, is that, like, these minutiae interactions, like, I don't need people to know. So it gives me a chance to, like, basically, like, put my patient care philosophy out there as a positive right after kind of being like, hey, like, this is some information for you. If you don't understand or you're not familiar with that, we can have a conversation about it, but it's not relevant to my ability to do my job. So I'm feeling in general, like, much better after the past couple weeks of taking some time to reflect and kind of figure out my next move. But the world can be a shitty place for people that don't fit in with the gender binary, and it can be really hard navigating that, especially in your career. So if you're out there and you're doing your thing, whether you're out or you're not, damn good for you, and do what you gotta do. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now, is just doing what I gotta do. But I'm gonna do my best to be just confident and authentic, and come from a place where like I feel like I have respect for myself and am also getting the opportunities that I want. So yeah, that's been my experience so far. I'm still pretty young in my career though, so we'll see. But I certainly don't feel like I deserved that experience. And I really hope that it's not a reflection on the rest of my field. I don't think that it is. I've been told that it's not. So I'm trying to keep that in mind, be hopeful for the future, and just be better prepared for if this happens. But yeah, that's it, I think.